this is our time in the studio with Carolina Coral. I welcome the viewers of Freedom. Let's get straight to the important news. There were 184 clashes recorded on the front line over the past day. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Russia carried out nearly 90 airstrikes, dropped about 200 guided bombs, and used 5,500 kamikaze drones. The most intense fighting continues in the Pokrovsk and Oleksandrivka directions. There, Ukrainian forces repelled 56 and 30 attacks, respectively. Fierce clashes have also been recorded in the areas of Vovchansk, Kupiansk, Sloviansk, and Lyman. Ukrainian defense forces eliminated 1,080 Russian servicemen in just the past day alone. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale aggression have exceeded 1,127,000 people. In addition, over the past day, 2 Russian tanks, 9 armored combat vehicles, 42 artillery systems, and 139 units of automotive equipment belonging to the enemy were destroyed. An enterprise in Chernihiv was damaged as a result of a morning attack by the Russians. A fire broke out. Debris from a downed UAV also fell onto a household plot. A Russian drone strike hit an old apartment building in Nizhyn. 2 people were injured. A postal terminal, a store, a delivery service branch, and a car were damaged. Toward morning, Russia launched another attack on the city. 1 more person was injured in total. Over the course of the day, the Russians shelled the Chernihiv region nearly 60 times. More than 20 settlements came under fire. The Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine did not confirm the information that Russian troops allegedly struck Mykolaiv with an aerial bomb. Earlier, news began to spread online that a Russian aerial target had supposedly flown more than 150 kilometers, reaching a speed of 500 kilometers per hour. The Air Force Command reported that the target was launched by a Su-34 aircraft from the Black Sea area. Currently, the relevant services are working at the crash site to determine the type of aerial munition used. Last night, Russian forces carried out a combined strike on Ukraine's energy infrastructure facilities. For the attacks, the enemy army used 37 air and ground-launched missiles and 320 drones of various types. This was reported by the Command of the Air Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Ukrainian air defenders managed to neutralize nearly 300 Russian aerial targets. Some of them were lost from radar tracking. The attacks were repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft and missile troops, electronic warfare and drone units, as well as mobile fire groups of Ukraine's defense forces. Last night, Russia used the tactic of repeated strikes. The aggressor targeted firefighters and rescuers who were dealing with the aftermath of the shelling. This was reported by President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He called on Ukraine's partners to respond to Russian terror and increase pressure on Moscow.
Putin is deaf to everything the world says, so the only language he is still capable of understanding is the language of pressure. Pressure through sanctions, pressure through long-range capabilities. Perhaps strong decisions that will help. And this depends on the United States, on Europe, on all partners whose strength directly affects the end of the war. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine.
On the eve of winter, Russian troops are increasingly attacking Ukraine's energy facilities in order to leave Ukrainians without electricity during the cold season. One of the latest such attacks took place on October 10th, exactly 3 years after Russia first launched a massive strike on the energy sector in October 2022. At that time, many cities faced prolonged blackouts, for which people were unprepared. What has changed now? Find out in the report from our correspondents.
On October 10, 2025, after the power system was damaged by a Russian strike, about 200,000 customers in Kharkiv were left without electricity. Emergency power outage schedules were introduced in the city and the region, but people were not frightened by this. Both businesses and residents have long been prepared for this.
No problem. Yeah, it's all manageable. No problem. It's all manageable. We have a post office nearby, and they bring out a generator. And we used to charge there when there was no power, or we go into a cafe, so everything's fine. We're not panicking.
I hope that now it's ours, Ukraine.
I hope that every Ukrainian has prepared for this. Everyone has power banks, everyone has generators. We're kind of ready for this.
We also have a generator and a wood-burning stove.
We also have a generator and a wood-burning stove. Yeah, it's easier for us, so hopefully we'll stay warm and with light.
The city's educational institution is also ready to operate in the absence of electricity. At Kharkiv National University, for example, where they've already partially resumed offline classes and are holding lectures for students in classrooms, they have not only a powerful generator but also solar panels.
That's why we expect that in the event of a blackout, we'll be able to supply our safe spaces with the necessary electricity so that essential work isn't interrupted. The university is also currently working on installing a solar power station with a total capacity of 36 kilowatts.
On the night of October 11th, the Russian army attacked Odessa's power system. Almost every district in the city experienced power outages. However, energy workers quickly restored the electricity supply. The longest blackout in Odessa and the region occurred in 2022. At that time, many residents were left without electricity for a week. That's why people in Odessa already have experience living without power, and possible outages this winter don't scare them, just like people in Kharkiv, they don't.
Scare us, make us feel uneasy, perhaps even a little bit frightened, instill fear, and cause apprehension.
The station.
Is what it's called.
And this is a station. Well, kind of like a battery. And our stove is gas-powered.
You have to prepare for the worst, so that if things don't get worse, we'll be satisfied and it'll feel nicer. Because if we don't prepare at all, it'll be harder. We got a dog. We keep warm, and the dog too. My trusty helper, this power bank, has saved me more than once.
A power bank and a small flashlight are the main essentials for Ekaterina, a resident of Zaporizhia, when there's no electricity. She says she bought them when she first faced long power outages. Almost all of fall 2024, electricity in the city was supplied according to a schedule. And sometimes the outages lasted for 6 or even 12 hours at a time. Back then, the points of invincibility that appeared in every city in Ukraine in 2022 were a real lifesaver. They're still operating now.
We have points of independence almost everywhere. We have points of invincibility pretty much everywhere. They're in kindergartens, schools, and even in stores. Last year, I had to go there to charge my phone and other devices.
Even during a blackout, Volodymyr from Dnipro won't be left without electricity in his apartment. After the previous long power outages, he bought a powerful battery that lets him get through them comfortably.
We bought a battery with a pretty big capacity, over 300 amp hours. And it holds up well during tests. I ran some tests myself. It lasts for more than 12 hours. That's enough to power the whole apartment, a 3-room apartment. The fridge works, the freezer, computers, laptops, you can charge your phones, you can charge power banks too.
Over the past few years, the city's utility infrastructure has been equipped as much as possible with autonomous power sources in case of blackouts. If necessary, powerful generators will be connected to boiler houses, heating stations, and hospitals. And many schools and kindergartens have been connected to solar power plants.
We used to have to light things up with our phones, charging stations, and flashlights. Now we don't need any of that anymore. We'll have lighting so the kids can spend time in the kindergarten without any worries.
Now, the equipment will automatically switch to solar battery power if the central electricity supply is cut off. Such a solar power station can provide up to 7 hours of uninterrupted operation for the entire kindergarten. Ukrainians are prepared for prolonged outages. However, they still hope that blackouts can be avoided.
Ukraine's defense forces have once again attacked the Saratov oil refinery. Explosions and a fire have been reported in the area of the facility. The information was confirmed by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Let me remind you that this refinery specializes in the production of gasoline, diesel fuel, fuel oil, and other products. There are more than 20 types in total. The plant is also part of the Rosneft oil company and supplies fuel to the Russian armed forces. This facility was struck in the USSR exactly 1 month ago, on September 16. During the latest meeting in the Ramstein format, Ukraine's partners announced defense support and hundreds of millions of dollars. In particular, the funds will be allocated for the purchase of domestic weaponry. This was reported by Ukrainian Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal. According to him, new contributions under the Pearl initiative have been agreed upon, totaling more than $420 million. Thus, more than half of NATO member countries have already made or declared contributions within the framework of the program. Additional funds for the procurement of products from the Ukrainian industry amounted to $715 million. The European Commission has proposed a roadmap for EU member states for defense readiness by 2030. This is a plan to strengthen Europe's defense capabilities. Our special correspondent for Freedom TV in Europe, Vitaly Sizov, will tell us more about this. He is currently in Brussels and is joining us live. Vitaly, welcome. Tell us the details.
Good afternoon, Carolina. Yes, indeed, such a document has been presented, and it still needs to be discussed at the meeting of the Brussels leaders next week, at the meeting of the leaders of the European Union countries. Today, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, spoke about the goals of creating this document.
This is a roadmap for defense readiness, a plan for maintaining peace. Over the next few years, it is necessary to significantly increase Europe's defense capabilities. Today, Russia does not have the ability to attack the European Union, but it could prepare for this in the coming years. The danger does not disappear, even if the war in Ukraine ends. The member states have identified 9 areas of work in line with NATO's objectives. The roadmap is a plan to fill these gaps with clear goals, deadlines, and progress indicators.
The Commission is proposing several directions for implementing the roadmap, several main areas. One of them is flagship projects that countries will carry out together. Specifically, this refers to the European Initiative for Drone Defense. Previously, this direction was called the Drone Wall, but now they've slightly changed the name. Essentially, it's the same thing. Next comes monitoring and controlling the eastern flank of the European Union. There is the European Shield and the Space Defense Shield. It is expected that these projects will be implemented by several countries at once. And in this way, a contribution will be made. A contribution to achieving NATO's capability goals. During the day, throughout the day, NATO does not plan to double its military capability. The preparation of this document was commented on by the European Commissioner for Defense, Andrius Kubilius.
We want to reach a certain level of defense capability by 2030. Why? Because of Putin's plans. We have to deter aggression, prevent wars, and maintain peace. That's exactly what the roadmap is all about. To achieve this goal, we need to reach NATO's new targets by 2030. According to publicly available information, our current progress is only 50% of the required result.
Completing the formation of a coalition on capabilities in 9 key areas is what Kaja Kallas was talking about. In these areas, the European Union is lagging behind its desired goals, so it needs to catch up. I can name some of them: air and missile defense, strategic enablers, military mobility, artillery systems, cybersecurity, drones, and some others. Other areas where the European Union still has gaps. To overcome them, it is necessary to work with the European defense industry. It is necessary to simplify processes within it as much as possible and to coordinate it as much as possible within the European Union. And the goal is to create a common European defense market by 2030, where all internal regulations will be harmoniously combined, allowing industry to supply products in as short a time as possible. Another positive detail is that, for the first time, there are some concrete figures and dates, deadlines. By 2027, it is planned to create a pan-European military mobility zone with common rules and a network of land, air, and sea routes. And today, Kaja Kallas said that they also want to create an anti-drone system in the European Union. By 2027, this document is extensive. It contains a lot of information. In particular, as previously stated, it is planned to provide security guarantees for Ukraine by turning Ukraine, as they say in Brussels, into a steel porcupine that will be impregnable to any aggressor. To achieve this, they plan to invest in Ukraine's defense industry, and it is also expected that Ukraine will have the opportunity to join these capability coalitions. As we know, the European Union held a drone coalition meeting, and Ukraine also participated in it. It is likely that this experience can be scaled to other coalitions as well. In conclusion, I would also like to note that, as Andrius Kubilius said in his speech, this document also contains promises to complete the work on the reparations loan, that is, the loan funded by the frozen Russian assets here in the European Union, to finish this work already this year in order to provide Ukraine with new opportunities to finance its defense. It's quite a comprehensive document, and there's a lot about Ukraine. We will talk about its new details in our upcoming episodes. But for now, that's the main information as of the time of its presentation. Carolina.
Thank you, Vitaly. Let me remind our viewers that we were joined by Vitaly Sizov, special correspondent for Freedom TV channel in Europe. After the collapse of the diplomatic process initiated by Donald Trump, the White House is looking for new ways to end Russia's war against Ukraine. This was stated by Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine. The Ukrainian delegation in Washington is presenting a strategy to increase the cost of aggression for Russia through long-range strikes, joint drone production, and strengthening air defense. Attacks on Russian oil refineries and military-industrial facilities remain effective as they reduce Russia's ability to continue its violence.
Yes, tomahawks are not a universal weapon and have technical limitations, but this isn't about can we or can't we, it's about what needs to be done. We need more. We are offering honest agreements. Ukraine is reducing the risk for the entire West. Europe is paying for its own security. The US is profiting from arms supplies. Even if it's not about peace, it means we must project power deep into the heart of Russia. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The German government will respond to Russia's hybrid war with a comprehensive plan to counter such threats. This was stated by Chancellor Merz during his speech in the Bundestag. The head of the German government emphasized that Germany will repel the offensive launched by Kremlin leader Putin. Merz accused Russia of trying to destabilize the situation in Germany and Europe through hybrid means of aggression. But according to the Chancellor, Putin miscalculated because Germany will not allow itself to be intimidated and will defend itself resolutely, and will also continue to support
the sovereign nation of Ukraine.
We don't want this to drag out the war. On the contrary, we want everything to end as soon as possible. At the same time, Putin must realize that our support for Ukraine will not weaken, but on the contrary, will only grow. And he shouldn't count on outlasting us.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.